Record.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Tanisha, Ward 18 Democratic Committee, and I'm joined by Rob Consalvo, a candidate for the 14th Suffolk District State Senate seat here in Massachusetts. How are you, Rob?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. We're going to jump right in. What sets of skills and experiences best prepare a state representative candidate for success?
Well, let me just say I'm so excited that you asked that question to be a candidate for state representative, because I think one of the things that sets me apart as a former elected official of 13 years on the Boston City Council and someone who's dedicated his life to public service, I think that I'm running because government is about helping people and making a difference in the lives of others. And so I start with that premise, that it's all about helping people and serving our communities and making sure our communities have a voice, not only at Beacon Hill, but at City Hall. I'm the candidate who has the experience to hit the ground running on the very first day. As a former elected official, I've been known as a bridge builder, someone who can bring coalitions together, people together, all sides together to be able to find common ground to get things done. I think cooperation should replace confrontation, because I believe more gets done when people work together. I got my start with Senator Edward M. Kennedy, working in his office for almost 6 years, and I've learned many of the ideals from him that I still hold true today. And that is making sure that you're always available and accessible for the people you represent. Being a bridge builder, someone who finds common ground. And at the same time, being the person who has a laser-like focus on the issues that are important to the community. I'm the candidate who in this race has the experience, and I believe that experience counts now more than ever. Using the experience of my former time as an aide to Senator Kennedy, an aide at the State House, a former Boston City Councilor, in the last 7 years working not only at the Boston Home Center, but at the Boston Public Schools to be able to advocate and deliver for the residents of the 14th Suffolk District. I believe very strongly that those traits are being someone who will listen, someone who will be available and accessible and transparent, someone who will let everyone have a seat at the table so all people's opinions can be heard, but someone who can also be a person who's a problem solver. Many of the work that you do as an elected official is solving problems for people. People need to be able to rely on our state representative when they're at a time when they need help, being this person that can solve their problems, because I have the experience working on all levels of government. I also strongly believe that as state representative, I'm going to bring government closer to the people, making sure that folks have a stronger say and a stronger voice in state policy and in city policy. I've pledged to open a district office. I'm the only candidate who pledged to open a district office in our business district in Cleary Square, so that folks and individuals don't have to come all the way to the State House to voice their opinion with me, but that I can be more available and accessible. I did that as a city councilor. It was extremely successful. I'm going to continue to make sure that I leverage every opportunity so voters' voices can be heard and that they have access to me to be able to share their thoughts and their opinions, to be able to ask for help, and to be able to be there for when they need me. That means things like social media, like a website, like office hours, which I did as a city councilor, like having a newsletter, both a traditional newsletter and an e-newsletter. It really means the traits are being someone who's committed to this community, committed to making sure that government works for all of the people, not just some of the people, committed to making sure that I am the strongest advocate possible to make sure that resources from state and city government come back to the 14th Suffolk, which we so richly deserve.
Thank you. If you could pick only one House committee to serve on, what would that committee be and why?
I think I would like to serve on the Committee on Housing. I chaired the Housing Committee as a Boston City Councilor. I served as the trustee of the SEIU Housing Trust after I left the council, and I served as Deputy Director of the Boston Home Center, helping lead the city's housing and home ownership efforts. And I think it's one of the top 3 issues that I'm most passionate about among many issues that I'm passionate about, but I think housing is one of the top issues. I think we need more affordable housing so people aren't priced out of this city. I really strongly believe that we need more home ownership for people in our community, particularly communities of color. I think we need to make sure we're protecting our tenants. I support legislation at the State House to protect our tenants through a right to counsel bill, which will give tenants a level playing field in court when they're being evicted. I support a tenant's right to purchase, opportunities where tenants can actually purchase their buildings before large developers get them, so they can protect and save their homes and keep their housing affordable. I support the city's efforts to strengthen its IDP and linkage and to give us control over IDP and linkage so that we can continue to raise revenue through IDP and linkage. Currently, it's controlled by the state. We have a bill pending that gives city that local control. I support that completely. And I support a transfer tax for deals over $200 million that we would be able to take 2% of the revenue on that. That would raise between 180 and $200 million a year for affordable housing in our city. So we need to be working towards more affordable rental units, more affordable homeownership opportunities, which is critical, protecting our tenants through important legislation at the state house that keeps them in our city. And I would also say that we need to do more to make sure we're preventing foreclosures and making sure we can not have another foreclosure crisis so that we can keep people in their homes.
Thank you. Final question for me. Could you name a current or former public figure who you look to for inspiration and why?
Well, that was Senator Kennedy. I had the most incredible opportunity to work for Senator Kennedy as a intern. That internship led to a full-time staff position in his office, both in Boston and Washington. Senator Kennedy became more than just a boss. He became a mentor and a friend. Many of the ideals that Senator Kennedy taught me and the things that were important to him are many of the things that I still hold true today. And at the heart of it all is a commitment and passion for public service, a commitment and passion for helping people, a commitment and passion for making a difference in the lives of others, and a commitment and passion in making sure that we're representing all voices so that government works for all of the people, not just some of the people.
Thank you. With that, I am going to invite Yannette Lissette into this conversation. She's from the Mass Alliance for HUD Tenants. She has a couple of questions.
Hello,
Yannette?
how you guys doing?
Good.
Hello.
So more than 400,000 Massachusetts tenants are unable to pay rent due to lost jobs and income, now face a tsunami of evictions when back rent becomes due after the state's eviction moratorium ends on October 17th. What state measures do you support to keep people in their homes? Do you support, and how would you pass enabling legislation to allow cities and towns to adopt local tenant protections, such as just cause evictions, condo conversions, and or rent control, if they wish?
Well, so I think I'm glad that you asked that question because it's many of the things that I already talked about, not knowing that that would be a question. So again, I have a proven record as a Boston City Councilor, supporting tenants, supporting housing, working tirelessly to make sure that our tenants can stay in their homes. As the Deputy Director of the Boston Home Center, I dedicated the first 3.5 years of my life after the City Council and working on providing homeownership opportunities, working on providing foreclosure prevention efforts, including working with banks to renegotiate loans so that homeowners can stay in their homes. I would also point out we ran the city's largest homeownership repair program, helping homeowners repair their homes and helping seniors who are in many cases cash poor but house rich to be able to stay in their homes. So it's a wide facet of things. You heard me talk a moment ago. I think the things that I mentioned a moment ago are the critically important things that have to get passed among many important bills. And I just want to highlight it again, the transfer tax. We need to build more affordable housing in the city and provide more affordable homeowning, more affordable rental and homeownership units. So that means the transfer tax on those large scale sales would generate 180 million or more in new revenue to allow the city to build that. I think we definitely need legislation to pass that would allow the city to control its own destiny regarding IDP and linkage. We want to raise our linkage. We need permission from the state to do that. This legislation would bake that into the zoning code so that it becomes permanent law and would give the cities the tools it needs to raise its own revenue. I think that we need to, again, I want to stress the right to purchase would be a hugely important bill that would allow, in many cases, tenants who are already able to collaboratively come together and buy their own buildings to prevent displacement, keep their rents low, and buy them from the developers. We should give those tenants that opportunity. I also think it's critically important that the state funds through its operating budget and through its CPA match to cities and towns more revenue to be able to build that affordable housing. I think those are all critically important pieces. As regards to the evictions, I certainly obviously support the governor's efforts to extend the moratorium to October, but I actually support one even more. And I support Chairman Honan and Rep. Connolly's bill, which would extend the moratorium on evictions to the year after the declaration ends of the emergency of COVID. So when the governor ends the declaration, and let's say for argument's sake it's January, the moratorium would extend then with this legislation all the way through the next January, giving people an extra year to be able to not be evicted from their homes. It would also help small landlords by providing a funding tool and a fund to help small landlords who are also being negatively impacted by this housing crisis. And I want to just mention one other quick thing because I know my time is almost up. we need to talk about foreclosures. We need to, the next wave of foreclosures will come after the COVID crisis. We know we went through a foreclosure crisis back in the mid-2000s. That disproportionately impacted communities of color in the city, including in the District 5 City Council seat that I held and in the 14th Suffolk. We need to double down our efforts on working with families to prevent foreclosures so we can save people's homes and keep people in their homes. And that means working with agencies like the Boston Home Center to make sure that we're getting the counseling necessary, the interventions with banks to
So we
renegotiate.
are going to have to go to the next question. You have one more. You have one more.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Yannette, so we can.
On that note, what measures do you support to expand in the supply of the rental housing available and affordable to extremely low income renters and the homeless, such as the 21,100 families earning less than $25,000 a year identified in the mayor's housing report who face displacement in Boston by 2030?
Yeah, so we need to continue the investment in that piece of affordable housing and housing. It all comes down to supply. We need to build more affordable housing in our city. We can't do it alone, right? We know our suburban counterparts around Boston are not meeting their obligations around the housing issue. So I commend the mayor for his efforts under Chief Dillon, who's the nation's leading housing expert, to make sure that we have a housing plan that's going to continue to invest in those areas. And I think it all comes down to the funding. Again, we need more funding for affordable housing. We need to make sure we have a thoughtful planning process that allows us to build affordable units in our city. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and as a state legislator, I will work to make sure we hold the state accountable. We need more funding in the operating budget from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to cities and towns, particularly Boston, to build affordable housing. We need to hold the state accountable for its CPA match so that we get that funding from its CPA match.
So Rob, I am going to have to cut you off because we are actually over time. But you got it all in.
I tried.
You got it all in a couple times. Yeah. So definitely want to thank you for your time this evening and appreciate you being a part of this process with us. And we wish you well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.